So let's get started. Hello. Welcome everybody to our BG5 Live, April 12th, 2022. And this is episode 151. And today we're going to talk about the trial and error of growth. So we were trial and erroring our way into getting live here. So brilliant demonstration of at least a third line quality. Yay. So hello, welcome everybody. I will be doing all of the April episodes so that Linda or Karen can actually have a little break between her two courses. And Linda had the what was it again? Allergies, right? The allergies going and really tough. So she had to get extra medicines and was just tired of sneezing and etc. and went to bed since it's nighttime in the Netherlands. All right, so we started April last week, and it is the shock of completing an old cycle and beginning anew. So we were trying to complete something today. The cycle with the 42, but it's kind of difficult. So there may be some difficulty at the beginning. So take care of yourself first as you rationalize this change. So 2 weeks ago, we had control, the 21. And last week, we saw the initiation, the shock. So it was actually quite funny that it was the first time that I was back again. And it was really a shocking experience. Shock arousing empowers the direction of love. And then today we're going to talk about growth in the 42. So completing a cycle is the heart of growth. So it's right over there in the energy resource. Completing a cycle, and the 53 is starting the cycle. And then we have next week ordering in the trait 3, difficulty at the beginning, mutation, nourishment, the 27, care for oneself first, and then rationalization, the return. Inspiration must be given a rational form. So we have actually quite a few traits in the energy, or they're all red. They're not all energy resource. Oh, sorry. And it's energy resource and willpower, actually. Yeah, so quite a bit in energy resource this month, right? I don't know if you want to say anything here. We've seen this last week as well, or if there's anything you see in today's transit chart that stands out to you. So we still have the channel of efficiency, the strength of efficiency, with the 23 being in our environment, right?
That's what's going on. There's all kinds of efficiency going on in our environment right now. So yes, that is happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, the shock, last week, the shock was quite apparent. We talked a lot about that. This week, I think I noticed it can feel like things are completing. It's so interesting to know what the background frequency is, because when you start to notice how you're feeling and realizing that it aligns with what's going on, it's been really interesting to just pay attention to that, because I feel like I was going through clearing up some things that I've done in the past and recognizing that, I'm done with that. I don't need to do that anymore. That was sort of what I noticed so far this week.
It's funny that you shared it, because I actually had a conversation this morning on the telephone, and my friend was also sharing, I'm going to clean my house and dump stuff that I don't need anymore. Like that's cleaning out and refreshing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was doing. I changed my whole little office area, going through files and shredding things. And I too had a conversation with someone. It was like, okay, enough, done.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
We just were sharing that we saw you in a different background as well.
Right.
Beautiful forest. So
yeah.
New
Yeah,
background.
so
That's
interesting.
Yeah.
So purpose fulfilled through mind this April or in April, and it is actually the first quarter, right? So through conceptualization, education, that you fulfill the purpose with these in this quarter. Oh, sorry, that's going very fast. So a unique vision amidst the crisis. So we have crisis twice, and it will be here for a long time in personal law and in what's hidden. And both these life aspects don't move so fast around the wheel. So we will be in crisis, and it's actually the second quality in both. Interesting. So March 7th, it entered into what's hidden, and it will be there for 3 years. April 6th, it entered in, April 6th until May 2nd, it will be in personal law. So it will be an interesting 3 years to see what kind of crises are showing up and what we are going through. And it is hidden, so, it will probably pop up a little bit later, but personal law is there. And then the 49 of principles, revolution. So we entered into that, and we saw it last week as well, March 2nd. So, and it is here for the rest of the year in judge and discipline. And now we have in uniqueness, we have, it says shifted to the driver from the 24 that it was until last week. So uniqueness has moved into trade 2 of the driver and vision. So as a business skill, it's vision from March 7th for the rest of the year. And it shifts the focus of uniqueness to purpose fulfilled through form, and can bring both chaos and order to our direction as humanity. Did we discuss this last week as well? Yeah, we did, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. And it's interesting. I was also listening to a webinar with my husband, who's a financial planner. He follows quite a few financial people that are looking at the bigger cycles and what's happening globally in the world. And there was a fellow speaking who used to belong to, used to do stuff for the CIA, like it was covert ops a long time ago. So he was always from a financial aspect, looking at everything that was happening globally. And one of the things he talked about last week was fascinating, in that he was talking about the crisis going on in Russia and the Ukraine right now. And that from everything that he could see and all of the background information and years of knowledge he has, that even if they could come to some kind of resolution in the next little while, that this is going to take years to recover from. So it's months to years before things will settle out and kind of get back on whatever the track's going to be. Those weren't his words exactly, but I was just really fascinated to hear that. That was another outside approach that knows nothing about human design or BG5.
No, but it is actually, a crisis that's going on and affecting the whole world, right?
Yeah,
and it will,
that's the way he was talking about it, was the repercussions it's going to have in the way it. And he was talking about really that the so-called peace talks were really just being carried out by people that are lower down the chain from Putin, and that Putin really has no interest in it. It's like a red herring almost. So it was very interesting to hear his perspective. So
well, also
and how it lines up with what we're hearing.
In terms of things being hidden, there's a lot of things that are being hidden, both financially, things that are stalled, which means they're kind of not obvious right now. We're talking about distribution, food, finances, health, all kinds of stuff. We've gone from the health crisis to now more of a global crisis, and there's so many parts at work that only certain parts are evident at a time. We just can't organize all of this. So this thing of, when change happens, it's always chaotic. Just to bring it down to real simple, when I was changing my desk around, I had to empty the drawers. And then of course I got into the drawers and threw things out. And then I had to move files and started going through files. It's like, oh, I remember this, blah, blah. It's easy to get real distracted, and pretty soon it gets all full of chaos. You get piles here and there. And then you put it back in order, and it's like, oh my goodness, how am I going to fix all this? How am I going to get this put back together? And it does take time. Your body, your psyche takes time to order, much less the timing in cycles, much less, cities and states and countries and philosophies, cultural backgrounds. So we're talking about many layers here.
Yeah.
Revolution. Also, I'm looking at the revolution this year. So anyway, we'll monitor or we'll observe what will happen. Yeah, exactly. And I see that Karen also put in the quality, actually, right? So a crisis in quality 2 is support, the assistance to others in times of decline, which we are right now, right? The application of imagination to schemes which benefit others, feelings that can benefit others in times of crisis. So that's what we can give. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so today's theme is growth, trait 42. So increase, the Grail is the experience. And that's actually really nice to emphasize, because we are so goal-oriented in our society that we forget the process, right? But the process is the goal itself, right? And so the Grail is in the experience, and from that we will learn the lesson, right? After we have gone through the cycle, and we can build on what we have completed, actually. So the expansion of the resources which maximize the development of full potential. Completing a cycle is the heart of growth. And the tenacity to stay with a cycle in order to maximize its inherent potential. So each cycle builds on the lessons learned from the prior cycle. And before you can begin a new cycle, you must determine what is needed to bring it to a natural conclusion. What was left unfinished or incomplete will have to be revisited in the new cycle. So it's very difficult for you to extract yourself once you have committed to a cycle. So enter correctly. And this is very important, because otherwise, if you enter into something incorrectly, you will need to finish the cycle, but it may be a difficult cycle, and you may leave stuff unfinished and then come to it again. So most of us have some kind of examples of that you run into the same things over and over again in your life, right? That you think that you have by now learned how to deal with it, and then in another way, shape, and form, it shows up. So it may come from an unfinished or incomplete cycle, and then you'll have to go through it again. But if it's a healthy way of entering into it correctly, then you really build on the lessons learned, and it's kind of a moving upward with each cycle that you go through and each lesson that you learn, you develop more and more wisdom, right? So I don't know if Anna or Shelley, if you have this in your design, actually.
I
Yes,
don't have this one in my design, but I just wanted to segue from what you just said. Nature is full of cycles. So we learn through cycles. It's rare that it's one and done. And so when we have a problem, we tend to think, okay, let's fix this, rather than going through a learning experience, a discovery process. And then there can be a completion of that particular process, and then it starts again. And you add, when you're talking about learning and finishing, we do revisit things over and over and over, and that's not necessarily a bad thing unless it's very painful. And then we need to find ways to sort of expand our experience instead of having a narrow version of that experience. And usually life will bring something in that surprises us or creates a crisis or things that we were just talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. I also remember in my foundation course when, or actually it was Talk. Talk has the full strength, I believe. And she shared that once the lesson is learned, the experience actually will be forgotten. So she doesn't really carry with her the experience itself, but just takes the lesson and takes that to the next cycle. And I was actually kind of surprised by that, because, it is about the abstract collective circuitry is about the past, that you then don't remember, the actual process and the experience itself, but just the lesson learned. So I found that interesting.
And it's a format energy.
Yeah, it's a format energy, exactly.
The starting is important because it directs what that learning is. And yeah, you don't have to carry all the memories or all the details, but it becomes a cellular database that sort of integrates into everything once you complete a cycle.
Yeah. Yes.
That's just really helpful. I don't have either of these traits, and the 42 or the 53. But just the way you guys have described it, I can definitely say that I've noticed that recently, that once I've gone through a particular cycle of growth and I can feel it's come to an end, and the next one starts, and there might be some elements of what I learned in the last one, but I do that too. I only bring with me what I learned. And sometimes I forget the process that I went through to get that learning until I see someone else struggling through it. And then I remember, oh my goodness, I forgot how hard that was. But it is easier to remember what I learned from it because I'm here now and it's in my cellular memory. It's part of me now. I've changed. I've transformed through that cycle. I'm no longer can go backwards into the process of the cycle I just came through. It was, it might have been really painful and really deep and intense. And at the time I was right in the middle of it, but that kind of dulls a little bit or something. And like you said, what you end up with, there's, oh, wow, well, here's who I am now as a result of having come through that cycle. And I can have empathy for other people going through it, but I can't quite remember all the details of it. So thank you for explaining all of that. That I definitely feel that.
Yeah, so we have Debbie here. And hi, Debbie, welcome. And Debbie has actually the 42 in the third line quality in her conscious grounding. So it's part of your life work. So you must have real experience with this.
Close and personal, yes, in so many ways. So definitely one way was the experience that really nobody wants, but it's part of the experience of, losing a loved one. So I lost my son back in 2008, and that was definitely a growth cycle. And that's one of those things that it just happens, right? And so you're forced into it. But you can also make the choice of, how you want to be with it. And I just remember immediately going into, and this brings me to tears, but I had to make the choice immediately that I wasn't going to go down the dark side, because I could have really easily. And I immediately just started writing in my gratitude journal for the 30 years that I had with him. And it's definitely been life growth. And I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today without that. So, and then in that timing, my other son decided to start a business back in 2007, and he opened in 2008. And that was right when the collapse was happening. And that in itself was growth for 13 years. I've learned so much about myself, but learned so much about business, and it was very uncomfortable. There are times that I just like, I don't want to do this anymore, but it was all about the growth. And when I saw that, when I actually perceived that and saw shifted my perception of this is about growth, it made it just a little bit easier. Yet there's times it was very, very uncomfortable. And the natural ending occurred right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to close our business because we didn't have the funding to keep it going. And so, but I didn't panic. I just said, okay, what's the next step? What's the next? And I did each step trying to get funding. It didn't happen. And so 2 months later, we had to come to the conclusion that we had to close. And so I see this as like the natural ending, the natural conclusion. And I listened to it. I didn't fight it. I didn't resist it. I just went with it. And what an experience it was. So it was really cool.
Yeah. You have a very profound and deep growth experiences, right?
Yeah, yes, most definitely.
And completing cycles. So I think, to realize that growth is about learning lessons from experience, personal growth, but also, in business. So thank you for sharing. And then we have do we first do this and then the equality? Okay. Sorry, I didn't know the order. All right. So how you get affected when you get connected? Oh, when you are connected. So the shadow of trait 42, when you don't have trait 42, but you have the other side, 53. So the shadow of trait 42, the lack the ability to finish what you begin. So if you have 53, but you don't have 42, you're very good at starting things. And actually, Karen has this in her life work, and she's very good at starting things, but sometimes it's a little bit more challenging to finish them as well. So the question here is, do you have a hard time finishing what you have started? So do you get depressed when your new ideal project gets stopped? And do you feel depressed when you are unable to complete things? The problem is you are not designed to finish everything you begin, right? With the 53, because you're here to begin. But you can feel frustrated by thinking that you always have to. If your beginners continually meet resistance or are stopped before they mature, your disappointment can cycle into depression. Since it is a format strength, there is a lot of pressure here, stress and pressure from the drive and stamina. And all of the format strengths have the tendency to depression if the pressure cannot be released. And then we have the solution, which actually is, let me just You are designed to work with others who can help you finish what you started. And we have Charmaine with us, and Charmaine has the 53 in her conscious communication. So she knows what it is to have the other side and to feel the shadow of the 42. So she's now getting connected through the transits and trying to get on our side to be able to share. But we are waiting for Zoom.
Hi,
yes, there she is.
Yeah.
Hi, Charmaine.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
So I feel I get a lot of pressure from this MT. I've only got the 53 and the 52. So just following on from what Debbie was saying, it was really interesting because I'd never thought about it like that before, but I realized that not only is this starting without finishing, does it apply to projects and pieces of work and initiatives that I have, but it's also applied to quite a lot of relationships. And in the space of 4 years, I was in a relationship with obviously 2 separate people, and they both died in the space of 4 years, and that plunged me into a depression, but functional. I kind of went to work every day, and I didn't sort of disappear down a hole, but it did certainly take its toll, and that lasted a good 10 years. Because one of the things I don't have is that working with someone else to help you finish, or working with someone else to pull you through, or that other side of it. So I'm going to give that some thought, because I've never really thought about it in I'd only ever thought about it in practical terms. But in terms of pieces of work and things, I mean, I am the greatest starter non-finisher you've ever met. But what I've realized is that I start things, and I don't necessarily, it works to my favor, because it works in my favor, because I'll start something, and because I don't finish it, it sits there and waits. And then when I get connected with a transit, or I get connected with somebody, if it's important and if it's something I really want to do, then I see it through, and then it has legs. So in a way, it's all, it's almost that waiting and that leaving it to one side is almost serving me in terms of not wasting my energy on something that may be frivolous. But I'm really enjoying this transit, because I'm just on fire. I'm just like, right, do this. And I'm like, boof, boof, boof. Everything's like really, I love it. Absolutely love it. And
you're an innovator, right? So all of the sudden you have these 2 motors also firing up for you. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying it. And it's, I just wish I could extend it. I wish I could buy some credits and just have it.
But do you also recognize that so for Karen, for instance, right? We are very aware of this in the Institute. It's also good to hand over to others to finish it, and especially since you are an innovator, it's good to initiate, right? And then hand over to finish things. Have you ever had those kind of projects in your life, that you have others kind of taken it from where you have started things?
I have in the work setting, but I'm recognizing, actually, as we're speaking, that there's probably a little bit of legacy over with this this interpersonal, this relationship thing of connecting with someone with that sort of, not fear, but reluctance in case it doesn't follow through. And I think as well, being an innovator, I have a slightly challenging design on a good day, and it does become quite difficult to, I'd say 1 in every 10 connections is one that can help me get something over the line. It's quite a tricky thing. Not going into it too much, but it's not as easy as just saying, hey, somebody
No,
really
no.
help me. It's a bit
No,
more
no. I know
to
from Karen, it's very hard for her to actually let others finish things, and then there's things piling up on her plate.
Yeah, and for me, it's finding somebody. It's finding somebody who wants to, and who I can work with, and they can work with. There's a lot of moving parts to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's coming together.
Interesting.
I can relate, Charmaine. I have the 53. And
oh, you do too? I didn't know. Yes.
And what I've learned over the years, again, I'm an innovator as well, and also in other areas, I complete things, but I complete them over time because I have the willpower. I will pursue and persevere, and there's a lot of things that have timing beyond innovators. I don't know if you recognize this, Charmaine, but the timing is not always ours. Certainly with projects that we commit to or something, yes, it's nice when we get them done and have the reciprocal trait that'll support us. But I've noticed over the years that the pressure is eased up when I'm alert to the timing. Oh, I can start moving this section now, because you can innovate, you can initiate something, and then you wait for other people to respond, or I'm an emotional authority. So I wait and I track and I observe and I use my awareness and this and that. But there's layers to this process of initiating, number one. And also, in terms of not finishing, my own personal discovery is everything gets finished. Because you can eventually say, I'm done. And that's where we started. I'm done. I can't go any farther with this project. I'm going to stop. And I think of it in terms of my garden, because sometimes your seeds are growing, plants are growing, and one or two isn't thriving, or you tried a new kind of vegetable and it's not in the right place, it's not in the right timing. And you just have to say, okay, thank you so much. And you have to end it because it's not thriving and it's taking energy away. So there's a choice too about what you're going to feed, what you're going to put your energy into. Because the 42 is obviously in sacral energy, which is about knowing when enough is enough. And so you can end your energy output on a project and say, okay, I'm done on this. And then naturally, especially if you're following your decision-making strategy, the energy will come back and take that up. Somebody will come into your life, or it'll start another cycle where you actually can finish something similar. Or for me, I just have discovered that the cycle can complete. You can either decide it's done, or you can wait and allow it to be done. Because we have a life, when we're thinking about design and experimenting with our design, we have a lifetime to.
Yeah, beautiful what you both shared, because I didn't realize that you can start something and then let it be for a while, right? And then it can either be finished through energy that comes, or some connection, or you yourself find inspiration or whatever you need, right, to finish, or the choice to and that is also a finish, as you say, the choice to abandon or end the project or the plant that doesn't grow well in the garden. It's amazing. Yeah, Charmaine, did you want to react?
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, Anna. Just my experience is I think just slightly different. I'm just thinking back, and when I put something to one side, if I start something and it's something that's going to continue for me, it tends to come back. It tends to just it appears. But the things that I don't necessarily, I just forget about them. I don't even say, no, I'm not going to bother. They just sort of disappear and into the ether, and I forget they ever existed in a way. So it's more of a sort of they just kind of sink away into nothing. I don't have this sort of pile of things that I go, no, I'm not going to do that. So that can go, and that can go, and that can go. I don't know if it's just our designs are, we're both innovators, but we have distinct differences, I think.
Everybody experiences it in their own way. So it's interesting to hear the differences. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, this is a whole new, I'm very logical on the other side. So this is very interesting discussion for me. I don't know, Shelley, if you wanted to say something or if we continue on.
Oh, just an observation too, and listening to everything you're talking about, is that I can think of things going on in my life right now that I started back in the fall, and I was hoping to complete them in December, and for whatever reason, it was too much pressure. The energy wasn't there. The things didn't line up, and so I just let it go and said, okay, never mind. Let's just let it go, and we'll see when it naturally comes to its own conclusion. And that is happening like this week when things are coming to an end. So I literally finally got movement on it this week. So so I'm curious to see if I get it all lined up and done this week. So,
yeah. Well, you have the energy backing you up.
Yeah.
All right. So today's quality in the 42 is quality 3, and quality 3 is all about trial and error. So again, at the beginning of class, we had a beautiful example of how that works. We were trial and erroring ourselves into this session and into Facebook. So the quality 3 is the pioneer. For the 42, in times of increase, mistakes are a natural part of the process. So the elevation for the 42 3 is the power to accept mistakes as part of growth, the energy and assertion to turn mistakes into an advantage. And the challenge is that mistakes give power to moodiness and caution, a moodiness that in error may succumb to brooding and unnecessary caution. And I would love to hear from Debbie, because Debbie, you have this in your conscious grounding balance in quality 3. So how do you recognize this, and how do you see it show up?
Yeah, great question. So I before human design, I would get so frustrated when things wouldn't work. And learning this about quality 3, it's like giving me relief. Yeah. And I'm going, oh, that's what I'm here for, is to try something out. And if it doesn't work, okay, let's move on. And I go, oh, well, okay. And I have done that throughout my life with certain things, but it's like I love to bake and I love to cook and I love to experiment. And when I'm always creating in my mind, and when I try it, and if it doesn't work out, I said, okay, well, let's try it another way next time. So, but it's the same thing with my example that I shared earlier about when I lost my son. Mm-hmm. One thing that I communicate, because I'm also a chaplain for South County Fire here in my local area, and people tend to make themselves wrong for how they feel or how they grieve or whatever. And I just say, please stop. You are your own unique individual. You grieve as you grieve. There's no right or wrong in it. And you're not here to compare yourself to anyone. And I even share that with family members. I said, there's no right or wrong in grieving. It shows up differently for everybody. So just allow the process. Just make sure you drink a lot of water, because grief is very dehydrating. as well as make sure you get something to eat and be around Mother Nature. But it's all about self-care. But it's like people feel, it's like I'm giving them permission to be themselves. And that's one message I share. So this is a gift. I really see quality 3 as a gift to be able to share with people to.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's a very good reminder. And this is what I always say to my students and clients. You have to make mistakes. It's healthy for you and part of your process, right? And I like the word in English, mistake. And if you made a mistake, you can take the right take, right? So then you know what doesn't work and that's why you are a pioneer, just going out there and trying things, and then you can also give it to others in what you've learned from it. And beautiful that you actually have this in your grounding and for yourself in your process of grieving for your son, but then also to take it to the people that you how do you say that, consult or serve in being a chaplain?
Yeah, just serve. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. Shelley, did you want to share anything?
No, I just love the way that you reframed the word mistake as in a mistake. It's kind of like the film industry. Take 1, take 2,
yeah, exactly.
Take 3. We'll get it right eventually. I love that. That's a great way. And you're right. I have the 3 as my my conscious. Yeah, I'm a 3/5. So that is my life, is making mistakes. And I'm finally just now accepting what that really means, is that I actually have to do it. I can't think it through in my head and imagine how it's going to turn out. Well, I can do that. I spent my life doing that and trying not to make a mistake, trying to get it perfect before I tried it. And I realize now just how much that doesn't work, that it doesn't matter what I dream up, what I think up. I have to actually go do it. And then I learn something, and then I do it again. And I've always done that. I've probably, anything I go to do, I do it at least 10 times before I get it right. I just keep changing it till it's where I want it. But I'm not hard on myself for it anymore.
It's actually beautiful to see it in trait 42 of growth, right? That if you don't allow, or if you give the mistake power, right, that it gets to moodiness and unnecessary. What is it? Succumb to brooding. I don't even know what it is. What does it mean?
Brooding is just getting down, moody, really moody and deep, and again unnecessarily cautious. So being afraid to make the mistake. And it's so funny that when you accept that mistakes are part of that growth, then you realize it's like, oh, wow. So why have I been stopping myself from growing? Because I'm afraid to make a mistake. It all gets wrapped up in the fear package of, and the minute you let go of it and go, nope. There used to be a saying in my husband's business when they were first starting out was, nope, go out there and fail as fast as you can. That's how you're going to learn. Go out there and make as many mistakes as you can, because that's how you're going to learn how to do it right.
Yeah, so. Great. And Anna?
In this 3, again, we kind of already covered it in a certain way, but in the energy resource, there's a lot of energy. And when you spend time doing something and then, quote, it doesn't work out the way you thought, and you do use up some of your energy. And so it's easy for that to move into the moodiness or brooding, self-criticism, like Debbie was saying. So it takes a little while sometimes to recharge. Maybe it's just a good night's sleep. Maybe it's years of, reviewing something or putting something to the side, all the stuff we already said about the 42. But life requires energy, so you use up that energy. Hopefully you get more energy, when you succeed. But a lot of times when you, quote, fail, do a mistake, there's just that energy loss, but we interpret that as a depression or a failure. And so there's a fine line there between those real deep losses and just the loss of having spent your energy and it's time to stop, take a break, and then you recycle, then you come back to it.
Beautiful. I saw Charmaine also unmute. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Charmaine.
No, I'm good. Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Oh, no, that's okay. All right, let's continue on to see the celebrity of this week. So the life work theme. So this week it's, my mobile. This week it's Samuel Beckett. So he is an Irish novelist, a playwright, short story writer, theater director, poet, and literally translator. Literary. Thank you, Shelley. Resident of Paris for most of his adult life, and he wrote in both French and English. He is considered one of the last modernist writers. His work features bleak, impersonal, and tragicomic, what a wonderful word, experiences of life, often coupled with black comedy and nonsense. Actually, the tragicomic, it really speaks to his conscious core essence, right? Because it's if you can laugh about the mistake, you can kind of take it, lightly, or and use the energy to take the next one. So his life work theme is the material world. So you are a trendsetter grounded in properly evaluated detail who promotes growth by bringing one cycle to completion, thus setting the stage for inspired new beginnings. Yes, Charmaine, now I see your hand, so I think you want to say something.
Yeah, I was just, I love Samuel Beckett. Well, I would say I love Samuel Beckett. He's a bit morose. But his famous play was Waiting for Godot, which I was one of my favorites at school. Quite depressing, but it was something that did cross my mind earlier when you were talking about brooding and the words used to describe that. It made me immediately think of the 55 and that melancholy,
that
whole melancholy thing.
Spirit, yeah.
And I just find it very interesting that he has the 55.
He does,
as
well,
do I.
yeah.
So I I'm starting to recognize, just with some of the stuff that I'm looking at the moment, how the interrelationship between some of the traits, in terms of how they can accentuate or support, or the effect they have on each other. So yeah. I just thought that was interesting. And before you put the slide up, and you were describing, I just thought, goodness me, I wonder whether he's got the 55, and there it is. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's wonderful what you say, because usually you find like red threads in somebody's design, things that show up over and over again in different parts, or either in functions, in strengths, in traits, or in qualities, right? And then just cycling back. So yeah, it's beautiful. Anna or Shelley or Debbie, do you know Samuel Beckett and his stories and plays and poets?
Do not.
Do not. I don't know if you want to share anything on what you see here. Yes, Anna.
I do know of him. In my younger years, it was just too depressing. I didn't have enough humor. But in terms of the 55, that's in his discipline, which I think is interesting. That's,
yeah.
If you, that need to find spirit, and how it can be elusive if you're seeking it, if you're looking for it, versus just the experience of being in a cycle, and then it sort of arrives, sort of shows up, because especially at an unconscious level, he can't try to find spirit. It's gonna find him. And I think through his work, he would find it in moments. And that's what people, the reaction I've heard from people that actually finished the books.
It's so depressing. I haven't heard of him.
But that's the dilemma that it brings up, is like, where is spirit? Where is this bigger life force? So it provokes, it helps you move forward in that growth cycle.
Beautiful.
I'm feeling a little protective about little Samuel Beckett. I'll be honest. He's I think it depends on the chart. I mean, I think we've had this conversation, Natalie. I'm drawn to people who are able to articulate the melancholy and the pain and the, just people who can put it into poetic and beautiful prose, I think is wonderful. But just something to given you that you know of him, Anna, but for the rest of you, he became one of his most famous plays was Waiting for Godot, and it's a very fairly long and tedious play about two men sitting on a stage and they're talking to each other and they're basically waiting for God. And the whole theme behind a lot of his work is that it's waiting for something. It's sort of a situation where you're waiting for something to happen and you're expecting it to happen, but it never does. And he then put the slant on it from a religious aspect as well, about waiting for salvation. And of course, salvation never comes. So yes, it can be pretty bleak, but I think if you can see the humor of life and the upcycle of the 55, it can sometimes make you smile wryly and just make you realize that life isn't what it seems.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And Shelley? Yeah.
Just something you said, Charmaine, about the waiting for something. Just what struck me was the built into this 42 is the end of a cycle. Is it, waiting for the end of the cycle, waiting for it to be complete, waiting to get the learning, waiting to get the growth, waiting to that salvation is almost, what's the point of all of this? How do we get to the end of this so we know what the secret is, or what the point of it all is? That I haven't read his work, I know of him, but I can understand from what you're talking about, Charmaine, that there's a kind of I love it when my favorite writers are also people who are really, really great at describing how things feel or what our actual experience of something is, because that takes a real talent to be able to do that in beautiful language, and it has a great impact on our spirit when we come across people who do that really well. So thanks for sharing what you know. Yeah.
No, you're right, Shirley. And just as you were saying that, one thing I've realized as well, of course, is that he doesn't have, his emotional intelligence is, it's open, it's not defined. Yeah. And I'm really intrigued, because I suspect, I don't know, I'll put this out on the floor, but I wonder whether one of the reasons why a lot of his work is so damn depressing is because perhaps he does reflect back a lot of the emotional angst and stuff from, it's not his own, it's everything around him. And of course he's Irish, and of course he's, and the Irish have a particular, I can say this because my relatives are Irish, but they do have a particularly morose way of expressing themselves, especially in the late 1800s. So I'm intrigued to know what the 55 feels like for someone who doesn't have that emotional intelligence defined. I'll have to dig a little deeper. But thank you, Shelley. That's given it another dimension.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for sharing too. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, very rich discussion. I love it. All right. So we've come to the end of BG5 Live for today. If you enjoy these sessions and you want to see in your own design, if you have the 55 defined, so you can see here, this is Karen's design, right? She has the 55 as well. Or the 42, and Karen just has the 53 on the other side, like Anna and Charmaine. So you can download your design from our website. You can get your chart and download the page, and then just have it handy when we go through the trades of the day. And you can also subscribe to the trade of the day on our website, and then receive emails daily on what trade and what the theme of the day is coming from the trade and the quality. And on our website, you can also watch our past episodes in BG5 Live in the free resource library. So check out our program and courses as new courses are coming up. The BG5 certification is going to start next week. I will be the first starting the second semester of this year. And most courses will start in May. So classes start in May. So you can check it on our website if you want to join us. And all right, so thank you all for being here. And to wrap everything up, I would love to hear from everybody what you're taking away from today. And if you have any advice for people navigating the 42 and the energy of completing cycles. And let's start with our guests. So Charmaine, would you like to start off?
I'm always first. I'm going to make hay while the sun shines. That's how I'm feeling this week, and I'm getting quite a lot done. And I think I'm gonna carpe diem the hell out of this week. That's my advice.
Very good. Carpe diem the hell out of this week. So guys, that's the first advice. Debbie, since you have this trade as well, let's hear what you have to what you can give to people.
So life is all about growth.
Yeah.
So just allow what shows up and just experience it. And it's an experiment. There's no right or wrong in it. It's just, it is what it is.
Yes. Yes. So carpe diem the hell out of it. It is what it is. Yes, Shelley.
Oh yeah, I love that. And yeah, much like Charmaine and Debbie have said, just paying attention to what comes to you that you've got energy to complete. What are the things you're ready to let go of, to finish up with, to reorganize, rearrange, as Anna was talking about. And just I just find it fascinating to realize how much we are kind of supported by these background frequencies to help us move through life, and allowing things to just be there, but recognizing when they're there and how we can utilize them to help us do things when we need to.
Yeah. So this week, some things can be finished. Yes. And Anna.
Well, all of what was just said is very pertinent. Just take what's immediately available to complete. You know, don't overload yourself like, oh my God, I have like 10 things on this list and I want to get them all done. Of course you do, but what's the most imminent thing to complete, or what's the most imminent part of a project to complete? And then you find your energy again.
Yeah. I actually like that you also mentioned the part of a project, because it's all about the process. The process is the goal and not the end goal, right? And then we can enjoy the process and enjoy without expectation. We didn't even mention that today. So in this stream, it's all about not having expectations, to be able to learn your lessons, because you never know where lives take you. So we come back to just live life as it comes, and carpe diem the hell out of it. All right, well, thank you very much for being here, and thank you both Debbie and Charmaine for sharing as well, and Shelley and Anna for being here, and I'm hoping to see you all next week. All right, thank you, bye-bye.
Bye everyone.